Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Tru Offseason. Do not adjust your YouTube or Twitter or Facebook feeds, however you are finding us. We are back. We had a bit of a break, different people dealing with different things, a whole bunch of schedules that needed to be coordinated, but you know that we were here. We had to link back up to talk about the draft. And the background screen that you see right now, yeah, it looks a little dated because we were initially anticipating talking about all of the free agents that happened, and it was right around St. Patrick's Day. But a St. Patrick's Day theme can apply beyond just St. Patrick's Day because there are many teams that added free agents, but now they're looking forward to the draft and saying, will we be lucky enough for a certain player to fall to us, or will we have to make a trade? Will we have to do different things? And so we're here to talk about all of that. And when I say we, of course, I mean myself, I mean Chase. We are here to talk to you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Chase, how are you doing this fine evening?
Doing well, surviving, thriving. Sorry, guys, if I sound under the weather. I am kind of under the weather, but I couldn't miss talking about the NFL draft. So, super excited to give our first round picks and talk more in detail what these teams will probably not do as we select the players for them.
And Chase was part of the reason why Chase is sick is because he was there. He was at night one and night two of WrestleMania, and he is just sick to his stomach because he had to watch on night one Seth Rollins steal the main event win from the guy that everybody knew was going to win, CM Punk. Punk
Oh,
was going to win that main event. We both, Chase and I both know that deep in our hearts.
no,
But
I thought the tribal chief was going to win. Nah, I believe in my tribal chief.
but that dastardly Seth Rollins, he came in and he stole somebody, right? And that's something that is kind of a recurring theme in both free agency and in the draft, because we're hearing a lot of conversation about teams that could potentially try to trade up and steal somebody. We saw that happen last year in the first round. This year, kind of the name that they're throwing around is what's going to happen with Ashton Genty. Is somebody going to try to trade up to get him before he falls? A lot of people have tied him both to the Jaguars and to the Raiders. Jaguars pick fifth, Raiders pick sixth. The Jaguars may really want Genty, Travis Etienne, on his last year of his contract, but at the same time, if some team is willing to give them a king's ransom and to try to make sure that not only do the Jags not pick Genty, but the Raiders don't get Genty, well, you never know what's going to happen. And on the flip side, in free agency, we saw a few people who may have looked as though they were going to go elsewhere, may have asked to look for trades and things like that, but then they got stolen from that free agency pool, both by their own teams, in the case of the Myles Garretts of the world, but also we saw some people get fully traded. And some teams thought that they may have had a chance at getting certain people,
Yeah.
but it didn't happen. So it's kind of been a topsy-turvy offseason, but we want to thank you guys as always for tuning in here. Hit that like button, subscribe if you have not already. It helps out the channel and it helps us to keep bringing these kinds of videos to you. So Chase, before we get into the draft, I wanted to talk a little bit about free agency. There were a few names that kind of were a bit surprising moving on to new teams or who decided to stay with any teams. So one of the names that Joey Bosa going to the Buffalo Bills, I thought that was a pretty interesting thing to have him on a 1-year deal. I also liked for the Dolphins, Alexander Madison, because you never really know. Like, they drafted Jalen Wright, they're now letting Raheem Mostert go, but can Devon Achane really be a 3-down back? Yes, in one game, we know he can be. The question is across an entire season. So having someone like Alexander Madison, when for those games where Achane either is out or he needs a breather, those are some interesting things to have happen. But was there anybody? We'll go with the Chargers. Was there people from the Chargers and signings that you guys had that were interesting for you? I mean, I know you got a relatively shiny new running back for starters.
Yeah, very happy with the Najee Harris pickup. I know most Chargers fans weren't that big on it, but I think he fits perfectly with what Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman want to do. And I was going to be even more in love with it if we picked up a good guard. And when we got Mekhi Becton, and Mekhi Becton we signed at like 9 p.m. California time, I was like, oh my God, like we got Mekhi Becton. Like this was awesome pickup for the Chargers. Getting a Mauler right guard. Now the right side of the O-line, the power side, Mekhi Becton, Joe Alt, much improved from like Trey Pipkins and Joe Alt. You know, Trey Pipkins converted tackle playing guard last year for us. Mekhi Becton has shown that like this guard position has worked out well for him in the NFL. He didn't work out well as a franchise left tackle, didn't work out well as a right tackle. But as a guard, this guy's a massive beast, a massive load. And I think he's going to do well, and he's going to open up good holes for Najee Harris. Outside of the Chargers, DK Metcalf, that was one of the more shocking moves, in my opinion, because it didn't fit anything that DK Metcalf wanted, especially because the Steelers don't have, you know, the quarterback that, you know, DK Metcalf was looking for. But, you know, we'll see if they do trade George Pickens because, you know, just recently rumored is Pickens has unfollowed the Steelers. But I just feel that's like Pickens' MO. Like he just likes to create drama and stuff. So we don't know yet, but any team that gets like that has DK Metcalf and George Pickens, two of the best like deep ball threat wide receivers in the league, I'm like, man, that's pretty good. And then I also liked what Seattle did. I know a lot of people were kind of crapping on Seattle, but I do like the pickups of Cooper Kupp and Sam Darnold. I think it keeps them competitive in the NFC West. I think that they're underrated signings, and I think the Seahawks will still kind of shock people this year in the NFC West. I think they're still going to be a very competitive team. That defense is still very young and very, very good. And then I think
don't forget they added DeMarcus Lawrence.
Yes, very much needed veteran pass rusher.
Yeah.
So I really liked what the Seahawks did. Like I know Cooper Kupp, you know, people are saying he's washed, but he's still a great route runner, and that will always pay dividends no matter what. And then I also want to give a shout out to the Jets. You know, they just decided let's take a gamble on Justin Fields, and they're reuniting Fields with his receiver and Garrett Wilson. And so it's something that I feel will help Justin Fields be more comfortable throwing to a guy that he was comfortable with in college. And on a fairly fair deal where it's just a 1 year experiment. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You know, it's just 2 years, $30 million. It's really not that bad of a deal that they got for Justin Fields. So those were like kind of the signings that I personally really liked and stuff from all the teams.
Yeah, some of the moves that I kind of liked was it's not even a question of who they signed, but it's who they didn't sign, and it was the Vikings. Because to your point about Sam Darnold going to the Seahawks, it was whether or not the Vikings were going to re-sign Sam Darnold. And sometimes it's not even the moves that you make, it's the moves you don't make. Because by allowing it, if the idea is that Darnold and McCarthy can make, roughly speaking, the same throws, the question is the decision making. And McCarthy, while he has not proven it at the NFL level, he has definitely shown an ability to process and follow a game plan very well. And if there's one person who comes up with great game plans, it's Kevin O'Connell. Yeah. Now, because you're saying, okay, I'm not going to sign Sam Darnold, I'm going to go with McCarthy, that allows the money that would have gone to Darnold to go elsewhere. And in response, the Vikings do things like sign Javon Hargrave, sign Jonathan Allen, they re-sign Byron Murphy. Those are moves that you are able to do if you are not using a lot of money on a quarterback when you already have a rookie quarterback on that rookie deal. So it's sometimes I really did like a lot of what the Vikings did, especially in a division where you were neck and neck with the Lions for almost the entire season. And now if you're thinking to yourselves, well, we think maybe the Lions are going to take a step back without Aaron Glenn, without Ben Johnson. Maybe they might take, even if it's a slight step back, if you're able to stay neck and neck, if you're able to stay at least where you were and they take a slight step back, you are now potentially the division leader. And sure, you know, like there's that threat of Chicago now that they have Ben Johnson, but it is Ben Johnson's first time being a head coach. So there's going to be some growing pains involved in figuring out all of those things. But I got to say, Ben Johnson putting his best foot forward, because we talked about this in the very last episode, the idea of getting Joe Thuney, the idea of getting Jonah Jackson, but in free agency they bring in the Falcons former Pro Bowl center in Drew Dahlman. 3-year, $42 million contract. That's the kind of money that you have to spend on the trenches, which is what has allowed a lot of people to now say, hey, it may not be DeAndre Swift leading the rushing attack. It may be, depending on how the draft falls, it could be an Amarian Hampton. It could be a Quinshon Judkins, a Travion Henderson, or there has been conversation of the Bears being one of those teams that tries to move from 10 up to 5 with the Jaguars to get Ashton Genty. So it allows Ben Johnson to do a lot of different things. The Bears made I think they had a good offseason, but you know, we have oftentimes seen the Bears be the offseason champions. So the idea of what it's all going to mean, we will see. But one other thing is that for both you and I, we both, at least on paper, more so for you than for me, but we both got upgrades at the tight end position. The Chargers getting Tyler Conklin. You know, maybe there's some run left on Tyler Conklin. He's still a pretty young player, but he hasn't had as many opportunities. Now he's going to have a bona fide quarterback who can throw the ball and get the ball downfield. And we know how much Harbaugh loves to be able to use that running game to open up play action. And now, if you have Ladd McConkey going downfield and he's drawing the coverage, now you have a tight end who can actually make the catch to get the ball from Herbert. And for me, I mean, Evan Engram is a great addition for the Denver Broncos. It wasn't necessarily the person that I wanted. I was kind of hoping that they would get Tyler Warren in the draft or even Colston Loveland, more because I want the money to be able to stay with the defense. I want to build a young offense that's able to build with Bo and worry about those kind of contracts down the road. Because you can always find a tight end replacement, but in this situation, when Denver had to figure out whether they were going to pay Demaryius Thomas, Julius Thomas, they were like, Julius, hey buddy, there's only so much money, and Demaryius does more than you. And actually, in an interesting reversal, Julius Thomas goes from Denver to the Jaguars. And here we have a Jaguars player, granted drafted by the Giants, but a Jaguars player coming to Denver. So maybe Denver has found, or Sean Payton, I should clarify, has found that Joker type player in Evan Engram. But Denver's also somebody who is considered to pick up one of these really good running backs coming out of this draft. So we shall see. But with that, let's turn to the draft itself. And guys, our plan here is to do a little bit of a fun little first round, maybe second round. We'll see how it goes. Mock. We are going to be picking on behalf of all of these teams, and we'll talk about team needs and each player as we kind of go. So let's start with these Tennessee Titans. I think it feels as though it's a pretty obvious choice for Tennessee. They're as much as you sir love Will Levis. It seems as though the Will Levis
give him one more year. Just choose Abdul Carter. Give him one more year.
It seems as though the Will Levis experience is done in Tennessee. Leave the memories alone. First he lost the girlfriend, then he lost. Well, I mean, you could say he won social media by being a meme every week. But he still
has the mayonnaise sponsorship. You can't take that away from him.
That's true. He does have the mayonnaise sponsorship, but he does not have the QB1 spot in Tennessee, because we are putting the Cam Ward into the Titans. Now, how do you like this as a pick?
I'm not in love with it, but you got to get a quarterback to get, you got to get a quarterback in this situation. There's no teams are interested in going to number one to select anyone else. And you don't want to risk losing out on a guy like Cam Ward, because the Giants may have fallen in love with him. So I'm not like completely in love with it, but hey, we can see. I mean, Cam Ward, he's a great story. I mean, the guy was a 0-star prospect coming out of high school. Like played like Division One AA football or something like that, and then made his way all the way to the University of Miami. I like him. It's just like he just reminds me of Geno Smith. And it's just like kind of one of those where it's like, I feel it's going to take time for Cam Ward to really be the quarterback that people think he's going to be. But happy for the kid.
Yeah. All right. So that brings us to the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Browns basically, with the idea that Cam Ward's going first overall, the question here is kind of the question of our time, if you will, the question of the 2025 draft. Do you go Travis Hunter or do you go Abdul Carter? I mean, Travis Hunter gives options on both sides of the ball. He can come in and play cornerback on third downs for sure if they want to try to conserve him for the offense. He also can do a lot on the offense and maybe some games play more cornerback. Like it could be a situation where they're going, hey, we're playing against a team that does not have a good run defense. We're going to be running the ball a lot more. Travis, we're going to use you as a cornerback because as we start to kill clock, they're going to need to throw the ball more. And that's when we need you to be a ball hawking secondary kind of guy. So it's an interesting play there. But on the flip side, you have Abdul Carter, who has lit up a number of quarterbacks in college football, playing for the Nittany Lions. And that's, there's a premium on edge rushers. There just is a premium on the ability to get to the quarterback. If you're trying to, on those third downs, for example, when you would want to have Travis Hunter out there in the secondary, you don't even need to worry about the throw if the quarterback gets sacked and it's fourth down. Like it's that simple. So for me, I would go with Abdul Carter over Travis Hunter, but I can easily see the argument as to why Travis Hunter would be the pick here. How would you go?
No, I'm with you. I think it's Abdul Carter all the way. When you look at the AFC North, you got to look at who you're going to be playing. You got to get a guy that is like freakishly fast for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
The Bengals, they always have O-line issues. You compare up Myles Garrett and Abdul Carter together, that's going to be nasty. And you need someone that will match the nastiest when you battle the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Abdul Carter, like, he's my favorite player out of this draft. I think he's the number one prospect overall. And I think if the Titans weren't forced to take a QB in this situation, they would have taken a premier pass rusher. But, Tennessee's in this situation. Well, we're not guaranteed Arch Manning next year. We're not guaranteed to be in this position of taking a quarterback. And there's no guarantee Arch Manning even comes out next year after college. Maybe Arch Manning looks at it, does 1 year at Texas, and then he decides to transfer to UNC to learn under Bill Belichick or go to another school with the prominent QB coach. Like, there's no guarantee that Arch Manning is going to stay because, look, Peyton and Eli, they're going to tell Arch, like, hey, look, you've only had, just depending on Texas, I'm just going to go based off like what Texas could be. They could be national championship contenders. You've only had 13 to 15 college starts. Do you think that's enough and you're ready for the NFL? And when you look at Arch Manning and how much he makes NIL money, he doesn't really need the NFL right now. It's not like he needs to make the jump. So Abdul Carter has to go number 2. And it's one of those situations where you pair up Myles Garrett with Abdul Carter. You have 2 really good pass rushers that are just going to get after the quarterback, cause some havoc, and especially like a guy like Abdul Carter, the talent that he has, it's a no-brainer. You got to go Abdul Carter in this situation.
Yeah, and I mean, if I'm the Browns, I kind of want to try to use the draft to build as good of a team as possible while I'm still waiting out the Deshaun Watson contract.
Exactly.
Because right now, so like I'm pulling it up right now, the cap hit for Watson, they've done a restructure and all that kind of stuff, but the cap hit's going to be $36 million this year. And then next year, because of the restructure, the cap hit is $80 million. If you're the Browns, you're not, how do you even think about trying to contend, particularly in the division, right? How do you even think about contending until 27 or 28 more than likely? Because the division that you're in, it's so it's so neck and neck, right? Even because you could say, yes, the Bengals have a superstar quarterback, the Ravens have a superstar quarterback, the Steelers don't have a superstar quarterback, but they have a reliable superstar head coach who will find a way to get wins and may get wins at our expense. So
Yeah,
the idea of winning the division is a long shot. So you have to be playing for a wild card spot if you're the Browns to try to get into the playoffs. And now you're saying, okay, well, if we assume LOL Chiefs, then we got to try to beat out the Chargers and the Broncos, and we don't know what's going to necessarily happen with the Raiders, right? They may be on an upswing as well. That's already potentially 2 of the wild card spots gone.
yeah,
So I just went with one division. We didn't even talk about the AFC South and the Colts and the Texans. We didn't even talk about the AFC East with the Dolphins and whoever of the Patriots coming up with Drake May. So there's a lot where on the field. That's my argument for Abdul Carter over Travis Hunter, because I'm looking at it going, I think with an edge rusher, there's going to be a little bit more of that humility. They're going to be willing to say team first. Whereas Travis
exactly.
Hunter, as much as he is a very humble person from all accounts, he's a wide receiver. So and a DB. Eventually, there's going to be that level of superstar divaness that comes in there, where he's like, "Well, man, I need a team that's gonna where I can win," and you don't want that chafing against what you're trying to build in the long term. But that takes us to the New York Giants, and the New York Giants. One of the persons that they have been connected to for some time is Shedeur Sanders, but they have done a lot of meetings with Shedeur Sanders. They've had scouts and training staff at almost all of those Colorado games. They met with him at the Shrine Bowl. They had a bunch of interviews and things like that. And I don't know if that, to me, I don't think that means that they're going to take Shedeur Sanders, because it seems as though they're trying to convince themselves as to why they should or should not take Shedeur Sanders if you have
Yeah,
that many meetings with him. It just seems a little weird. But if you have Russell Wilson and you have Jameis Winston, you have the ability to throw the ball. Like Russ's can chuck it up there at the very least, and as long as it's towards the sidelines, for sure. And if anything goes wrong, Jameis Winston will throw it anywhere if you tell him to throw the ball. So
exactly.
it may make sense for you to get another wide receiver to pair up with Malik Neighbors. I think this is where Travis Hunter goes to the Giants.
Yeah, I'm with you there because the Giants, they just need talent on both sides of the ball. And Travis Hunter is one of the best athletes we'll ever see. He's talent on both sides of the ball for you. Like you can figure out, look, he's even said he would retire if he can't play both sides of the ball in the NFL. I don't know if it will hold up. I don't know if it'll work out. But in my opinion, this is where it's like you're saying to yourself, we just need talent. We need someone that can help out Malik Neighbors. We need someone to help out our secondary. Travis Hunter fits both needs. And if you do decide to play it on both sides of the ball, it'll work miracles for you. But yeah, no, like Travis Hunter is just a freak of nature when it comes to being an athlete in the NFL. So I think, yeah, I'm with you. You just need talent. You need talent.
Yeah.
Like you have the quarterbacks. I feel the Shedeur stuff was more of a smokescreen. Like they were hoping a team would be willing to want to trade up with the Giants at number
Yeah.
3. Because I think if you have the Giants, they're okay with like they're not mad that they have to get Travis Hunter at 3, but they would love to get a good haul of picks. Have a team take Shedeur Sanders, and then they could take someone else maybe down the line, like maybe a Tet McMillan or a Will Johnson or someone else.
This actually could be the place where we do see our first trade.
Yes.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah, between the Giants, Patriots, and Patriots, I think those 2 teams are going to be opening the phone line.
We're about to get to the Patriots, but you could make an argument like if you were a GM and you let's just use the Genty as an argument, and you really want Ashton Genty, but you're thinking to yourself, man, I keep hearing both from official sources and from my own little spies that I have that the Jags also want Genty. Well, then you can't. It's going to be even harder to try to get them to trade out of 5. But if you can, leapfrog and just say what whatever the cost is to go from where I am to 5 versus where I am to 3, that differential, you could live with that potentially, because the Jags may be charging a premium because they do actually want somebody at 5. So I would not be surprised if somebody does move up, and that's where we see our first trade with the 3rd overall pick. But assuming that doesn't happen and the Giants take Travis Hunter, if you're Mike Vrabel and the Patriots, you're pissed because you wanted either of these two guys.
Yeah.
You wanted the Giants to take Shedeur, or you wanted the Browns to be dumb and take Shedeur because of their cap space. Not saying Shedur's a bad player. It's the cap space situation.
Yes, exactly.
So that you could get either Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. But now you find yourself in a situation where you can't. You don't have that ability. So, okay, we're looking at this board and we're saying, what's the best way to help the team? Do we trade out of the pick? Because there's a number of things that the Patriots need. They need wide receiver help. Even though you signed Stephon Diggs, like Diggs is a 31-year-old player coming off of an ACL tear. He's not going to be around for at least the first couple weeks. And even if he is, he's not going to be Stephon Diggs. And even if he is Stephon Diggs at 31 is now worse than Stephon Diggs was at 30. So the question there is, do they want to go Ted McMillan? Well, okay. But if you're going to go Ted McMillan, you need to find a way to protect Drake May.
Yeah.
One thing that can protect a quarterback is a good running game. Do you just say screw it and take Ashton Genty?
Right.
Say, listen, buddy, you talk about how you're hard to tackle or you break tackles. Go do that. Do that for us. Ramondre Stevenson, sir, we appreciate the service, the years of service that you've done for this organization, but we have somebody new. Or do you go left tackle? Do you take Will Campbell? So I'm going to leave this. I put forward my ideas for these. I'm going to switch to you. Who would you pick? And I'll see how I feel about that one.
So with the Patriots, I think they are going to trade out of this pick. I think they're going to try to get more capital. I think the Bears actually get number 4, and then they will take Genty in this situation. So we have to figure out what the Bears are going to give up in this situation. I know they're going to have to trade their pick, a 2nd rounder, and then something else. So let's see. They'll have to give up 10, 39.
10.
All right, so 4.
This would be an even swap. So now, how would you work this?
Bears would also have to give up 39, so they would have to give up their 2nd round pick.
Okay.
And then Chicago, I don't know if they have to necessarily give up a 2026, maybe 148, and then they will get 171 back.
I like that.
Yeah, that's the only trade that I think would make sense, because they're trading up for a running back, and then the Patriots, they get more draft capital for this draft to fill in needs if the little trade machine accepts it.
Well, I put what?
Yeah, the trade has been rejected. They're dick
over the whole thing.
Oh man, they don't want us to work. They don't want us to cook. They don't want it to cook. Well,
I kind of want to see like what we would have to do then. All right.
Then give up the, since this is big, just give up next year's first as well.
So you said that
39, 148, 171 for Chicago first. Yeah. Confirm.
There
we go. Yeah. Just for the video's sake, I think the Bears go trade up.
Yeah, I don't think it would cost the first of next year as well. But I mean,
worst case is they trade a 2nd next year as well. Like that's the worst case. But we didn't want to sit here and play trade machine the whole time. But I do think the Bears do take the 3rd most talented player in this draft, Ashton Genty, in this situation. Like Ben Johnson is a big running the football guy. The Bears invested heavy in that offensive line. DeAndre Swift, he's a great cat, but he's not a true number 1 back for Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson had this guy before. He didn't like him. So it only makes sense that they get a guy like Genty. You keep Roschon. You have a little 3-headed dragon, kind of like how they had in Detroit, where they had Sonic and Knuckles, and then they had that other guy that would come in every so often to catch the ball. But I do think the Patriots trade down. They look at this situation because, look, Will Campbell, a lot of people, the knock on him is that his arms are too short to play left tackle in the NFL. I think that's crazy because Rashawn Slater got the same knock, and he's a really good left tackle. But if teams are down on Will Campbell, that's fine. Armand Membu, you can definitely get at number 10, and there's another offensive tackle that you can get as well. Or if not, hey, screw it. You take Ted McMillan at 10. So, like, depending on how we draft. But I think the Bears don't want to risk it. Because I truly believe the Jaguars will look at Ashton Genty and say, he's the best player available. Like, he's the guy that we want because we've done our research on everything else. Because when you look at the Jaguars, they do have holes, but it's not like their main hole that they have on their offense is they don't have a consistent running game.
Yeah.
You know, Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne have not shown they could be that consistent of runners for them. Getting a guy like Genty, who you believe is a consistent runner, and you only and it's like, hey, so what? We did a top 5 pick on him. We chose who we thought the best player available is, and I wouldn't have been mad at the Jaguars at it because I think it's Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Ashton Genty. Those are the 3 best players in this draft. Then the rest, it kind of jumbles. Like
It's
Tyler Warren is probably
more team needs.
yeah. So
But
like
now,
I think Genty's the pick.
Yeah, I'm with you there. If the Bears trade up, I think that is definitely the pick. If the New England does stick with it, I think they go Will Campbell, and they try to shore up the offensive line. And they go, all right, we'll use one of our later round picks to try to get somebody who will help, like one of those other running backs or wide receivers. Maybe Matthew Golden is still around in the top of the second.
Yeah,
goes.
Yeah, I think it's either Membu or Will Campbell. It just depends on what Vrabel likes in his players.
So, all right. So now, if you're the Jaguars, well, you have a lot of options, but you also have a lot of needs, and you can see it right there at the top where it says team needs: defensive tackle, tight end, cornerback, offensive tackle, wide receiver. So, I would love for them to take Ted McMillan here, but I don't think they would. I think they would go deep defensive tackle and take Mason Graham. It's a situation to me where if you have, Ted McMillan is great. And especially with Brian Thomas Jr. being able to work as a slot receiver and kind of play all over the field and be in motion, it's really great to have somebody like Ted McMillan who is more of that 50-50 jump ball guy and be able to go, all right, yeah, this guy is in essence, because this is Liam Cohen we're talking about, that's my Mike Evans. Maybe he's obviously going to be not as good as Mike Evans because he's a rookie compared to Mike Evans at level of experience, but that's the guy who's going to fulfill that role. However, I do think that the Jaguars go defense because they got to look at a situation where how do I win games? And winning games is scoring points, yes, but it's also about how do you stop somebody from scoring points. And if you have one of the best graded run defenders, you're able to do that with somebody like a Mason Graham. I think the Jags go Mason Graham. What do you think?
It's a tie between Mason Graham, and I actually think they might even entertain the idea of Tyler Warren, who people saying is the best pass catcher in this draft class. And I could like either pick for the Jaguars. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, he gets a lot of use out of his tight ends, and you get 2 freaks like Tyler Warren and BTJ together. That's going to be good. But yeah, you got to go Mason Graham in this situation. I don't see how Mason Graham slips any farther past this. Like, he's a very talented player, run stuffer. All your division teams, they're young. Like the Texans, what did they kill you guys in? The fact that they could run the ball with Joe Mixon. The tight ends, they're going to be mostly focusing on running the football to start out with the rookie quarterback. And the Colts, let's be real, all they do is fucking run with Anthony Richardson. It's not like they're going to be throwing the ball. You need someone that's going to clog up those middle lanes and just wreak havoc. And that's what Mason Graham does. And so you got to take Mason Graham in this situation. I will understand if you take Tyler Warren, though, because it is enticing to get this great tight end prospect. You saw what happened with Brock Bowers last year, and Bowers fell all the way to 13. Colston Loveland, he is going to be someone that will be like then later on the last good tight end left and teams might trade up for. You can mess up the whole draft by taking Tyler Warren at 5, taking him at such a high position. Yeah. But Mason Graham kind of falling to your lap, and you're just like, well, got to take him. Dog, can't say no to this. It's like I said. Sometimes you got to think about who you play most in the season. You play 8 games against these teams. You play against these guys, and you have to see them twice a year. They're on your schedule. You got to take the guys that you know what the teams are going to do against you, and you know the Texans like to run the football. Take Mason Graham. Get a guy that can also take some pressure off Josh Allen Hines and that young pass rush core that you have.
And speaking of pass rush, speaking of defense, the Raiders, I think this one's kind of a layup. Will Johnson, cornerback. We know how much Pete Carroll loves his DBs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to hear how they go a different direction, but to me, it's Will Johnson.
Scroll down. There's a cornerback. I want to see if he's still here. Cornerback.
Jahdae Barron?
No, he's from a random ass school.
Well, then I'm sure he's got to be here somewhere.
Yeah, he has to be.
But
click on defense on the tab. There's a cornerback from a smaller school that screams Pete Carroll to me.
But in the first round at pick 6?
Yeah.
All
Come
right.
on, it's a Siobhan Ravel. That guy.
Siobhan Ravel?
Yeah, he screams Pete Carroll to me. But I don't. But for realistic sake, yeah, it's gonna be Will Johnson. Like, he's tall, lengthy, fits everything that Pete Carroll loves in his corners. Play physical. Go Michigan. But don't be surprised if some East Carolina cornerback gets taken high. I'm just saying, don't be surprised. I mean, he's done it before.
The Raiders will be able to do something with that in the second and third rounds, depending on, or maybe move up if they need to.
Yeah, if they need to.
But the Jets, they need a little bit of everything as well. A lot of these teams in these early picks, they do need a little bit of everything, and I think that this is a situation where it's like in a world where the Patriots don't trade out, and let's say they take Will Campbell or Membu, whichever one they don't take is the one that's going to the Jets.
Yeah.
Because why would you not want to try to protect Justin Fields and just see what the kid has left and what he can do? But here, because both are available, which one would you go with, Will Campbell or Membu?
I think for the Jets, I think Membu is a much better fit than Will Campbell, just because I don't know if they're going to like the fact that Will Campbell has like the short arm length, but I just think Membu, for what the Jets might try to run on offense, I think fits perfectly for what they want to do. Like, they're not going to be more of a. I don't think they're going to be as much as a running team. They're going to be a team that's going to be very balanced, and Membu is a very balanced offensive lineman, while Will Campbell, he's more of a road grader of an offensive tackle.
Yeah. Okay. So now we've got the Panthers, and the Panthers are in a weird spot because Bryce Young famously Chase's favorite Alabama quarterback of the past
the greatest
years, I think. Looked terrible in year 1. And then year 2, he continued to look terrible. And then Andy Dalton said, here, this is how we throw footballs. And Bryce Young said, oh, that's what I'm supposed to have been doing this whole time, and started to turn it around, particularly towards the end of the season. So the question for the Panthers is, if we are going to continue to believe in this kid and try to build around him, what do we need to do to invest in him? And sometimes that can be a good defense. Sometimes that can be getting him weapons on offense. Now, last year they tried to do that. They tried to get, the Xavier Leggett's of the world, Jalen Coker as well. But there is, and they also had Jonathan Brooks, but Brooks retore the ACL. So I don't think he's going to be, I feel terrible for that young man because, a running back already has such a short shelf life in the NFL, and to see that happen, but the Panthers did go out, and I forget who it is right now off the top of my head, but they did bring in another running back. Where is it? Panthers. Rico Dowdle. That's it. So they brought in
Dowdle.
Yeah, from the Cowboys. So they have a bit of a running game between Chuba Hubbard and Dowdle. They have some wide receiver options. I think it's a great place to take Ted McMillan, to be honest with you, just because of what he's going to allow that offense to do. But I also think the Panthers would want to go defense, just because it's a situation where similar to what you were just saying when it comes to seeing what other teams are in your division are going to be doing. You're in a division that has some pretty decent offenses, particularly the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I would want to go a little bit of defense, and I would want to, like, it doesn't seem as though it would make sense for them, but a part of me wants to go either Jalen Walker or Shamar Stewart. How would you? Well, where would you go?
I'm going Shamar Stewart all the way with this one. I think Shamar Stewart, very talented pass rusher, a guy that will get after the quarterback, because that's the one thing that we know what they have on the inside of the defensive line with the Carolina Panthers. The edge rushers, they just don't have that one dude that can just get after the quarterback. Like, they just haven't found that guy that can get after the quarterback. Shamar Stewart is more of a pure edge rusher. And you just got to look at, like you said, the teams that you're going to be facing, what do they have to offer? You need someone to slow down the Tampa. If you want to make that leap, you need someone to slow down Tampa Bay. You need someone that can get to Michael Penix Jr., who, even though, yes, is entering his second year, much older, much wiser than most quarterbacks entering his second year. Yeah. And we don't know what the Saints are doing at quarterback, but you know that you want to try to attack that quarterback with the edge rusher. I think, as interesting as the Ted McMillan would be, and Ted McMillan, he's played with smaller quarterbacks his whole career with Noah Fafita from Arizona and all the way to high school. So it'd be like, that would be kind of a perfect guy, because he knows what it's like playing with a quarterback that is undersized his whole life. But man, getting an edge rusher like Shamar Stewart, a guy that can just ball hawk after the quarterback, that's something that you need to think about, and that's something you can't sleep on. And I like Shamar Stewart a lot too. Like, obviously these rankings, some of the players are not where I would have them. Sure, Shamar Stewart would be in the top 10. He's tremendous, but yeah, I think it's Shamar Stewart all the way.
And that takes us to the New Orleans Saints, who somehow, I don't understand how they pull this off year after year, but somehow they sign people, and they were able to sign people in this in this free agency period. And I don't know how they're able to keep pulling off some of the things that they do, but they did get some pieces, some people added in there. They did do a bit of re-signing, some moving cap around, as they always do, as teams do. But they were able to bring in Brandon Cooks from the the Cowboys. They were able to bring in or re-sign, I should say, Cam Jordan, Chase Young.
Yeah.
They brought in Isaac Yiadom, who's not like the best of cornerbacks, but he does provide depth. They're able to re-sign Juwan Johnson. The problem is that you don't really know who's going to be throwing the ball, because Derek Carr, who I have famously thought is terrible for pretty much his entire career, is dealing with a shoulder injury, and he's talking about getting surgery for the shoulder injury, and that may remove him from the first few weeks, at least, of the season. More importantly, Derek Carr is an older quarterback, and you kind of know what you have with Derek Carr. Could we see Shedeur Sanders now going at number 9 overall to the Saints, and they go, listen, Derek, like, we restructured the contract to try to move money around, but you're not going to be that long for this team? I could see a situation where they go Shedeur Sanders, but I could also see a situation where they are looking more at their looking more on their offensive line, and Will Campbell is right there as well. So I would say Shedeur, but I could see either one of those two. Which one would you go with, or who would you go with?
I don't think Shedeur is like the right fit for the Saints, and I don't think Shedeur wants to go there.
Oh,
I would say fire the trade machine and put Pittsburgh at 9. Put Pittsburgh at 9. Let's get Pittsburgh at 9. I think the Steelers. They're making a call. Yeah, they're making a call for the Saints. They're giving up 21. They're going to give up 123, and then their second round next year, just for number 9. They're not going to get any late round picks back. They're just going to have to settle with. Let's see if the trade machine. Oh, they don't like this trade. Well, give him the first, because these guys are so picky, man. Like, oh, I feel like I'm giving out free good trades.
Yeah. Oh wait, current 9, so 21.
And then, yeah, and Pittsburgh's first next year. Yeah, there we go. That should be what. We're not doing the second round anyway. Just give up all the picks to the stupid ass Saints. Like, you guys know what trades we wanted. This machine does not want us to have fun with it. Yeah, just give them everything at this point. Yeah, that should make the trade go through. The Saints don't want to trade this pick. Sorry, Pittsburgh, you're not getting Shador. I'll actually think, yeah, they go Will Campbell if the Saints stay here, because we can't get Pittsburgh to take the door here. So
okay, so let's, for a second here, let's say the trade had gone through and you're the Steelers at 9. Are you taking Shador?
Yeah, you're taking Shador.
Gotcha.
Because the Saints are the only team that would kind of scare you, that they want Shador, and I think the Saints would play cat and mouse, because I don't think the Saints want him, but they want to play cat and mouse with the Steelers, try to see if they can get it, and they'll be perfectly happy with Kelvin Banks Jr. or Will Campbell sitting here. Like, they're totally fine.
It's fascinating how polarizing of a player Shador Sanders is.
Yeah, that makes no sense to me.
But we have talked about teams using him as trade bait in essence, and he's not even on their team.
Yeah, exactly.
But now we have the Patriots. The Patriots traded out at 4th. They're now at 10. They have the ability to pick, and they have a little bit of a different landscape than they had at 4. They've seen two offensive tackles go. They've seen edge rushers go, cornerbacks go, defensive tackles. That was a lot of people that they would have been interested in. So now at 10, the question is, who do they go with? And I don't know if I'm just continually saying Ted McMillan's name for the sake of it, but if you are the Patriots, you really did try last year with Jalen Polk and I think it's Baker, right? Who's that's the second round receiver that they got to try to get people for Drake May to be able to throw to, and it didn't really work out. Like, you brought in Stephon Diggs, yes, but you got to know that even with the 3-year deal, Stephon Diggs is not going to be that long for the world. As much as I just said Ted McMillan, a part of me would also go with Tyler Warren, but I know that they have Hunter Henry. But how would you feel actually about Kelvin Banks Jr. here?
Oh, that was the pick I was going to say, because that's a Vrabel pick. It's Kelvin Banks Jr. Like, oh, we got more draft capital and we can draft a receiver later on, and we got one of the 3 best linemen out of it. Whatever. Like, because I think Vrabel's looking at it like this. I like Membu. He likes all 3 of these tackles equally. And Vrabel's just thinking at the board, by the time if we trade down to 10 to Chicago, because that's the lowest they'll go, all 3 will still be on the board. Ted McMillan is like his last choice of like a wide receiver that he would take. Like, it's not that he hates him, like similar player to AJ Brown almost, minus the speed. But it's like, I just want a good offensive line. Kelvin Banks Jr., I think honestly, he's the better out of the 3 linemen that we've been talking about. But I think just because of Will Johnson, of how hyped up he's been throughout, since his this year in college, and Membu, how he's been rising up the draft boards, and he seems like the most athletic out of the offensive linemen left. I think Banks has been slept on, but I think this is a great pick for Vrabel. This is the guy that he wants, and he'll get it.
Yeah, like as I'm talking about, like, I'm like, yeah, he's gonna. But then also it's like, but it's still Mike Vrabel. He's still gonna go with the trenches guy. But that takes us to San Fran, and man, if you're San Fran, you are kicking yourself, because we are not that far removed from San Fran being in the Super Bowl. Not once, but twice. And you are looking at it going, how are we now picking 11th? And now, not only are we picking 11th, we lost Deebo Samuel. We lost Dre Greenlaw. We lost Hufanga. Both of those guys are now with the Broncos.
Yeah, those are great pickups for the Broncos. Like, huge signings from that defense. Like, I love that Greenlaw said, "I'm not taking this prove it deal. Fuck you guys." Like,
Just if you
what?
just right now, I'm just gonna say this right now. If you are in a fantasy league or redraft or even dynasty league that plays with defenses, I understand that Denver is going to be going up against Justin Herbert twice a year, the Patrick Mahomes twice a year, and maybe a revamped Raiders twice a year. I'm still taking the Denver Broncos defense.
Yeah, no, it's a good defense. It's a good defense to have. Like, and you add Halafonga and Greenlaw to it.
No,
It's just
it's nasty. It's
yeah,
nasty work. And the reigning defensive play, it's nasty work.
yeah,
But
very good stuff by them.
if you're San Fran now with losing those people, there's a lot of holes you got to plug. And I see two players that would work to plug some of those holes. I see Jalen Walker and I see Mike Green. Both really good players. Mike Green, I know, transfers to Marshall, but then has a really good year. I'm going to go with Jalen Walker because I feel as though San Fran really needs the linebacker help. It
Yeah,
can't just be Nick Bosa. It's got like you've got to have more people in that like sort of first secondary, if you want to call it that, who can lock down players because you are going up against teams like the Seahawks who have Jackson Smith and Jigba and AJ Barner and Noah Fant who are going to be able to work those middle sections. You need to be able to, as soon as that ball hits their hands, either tackle them or break up the pass. And I think that Jalen Walker has the ability to do that, plus the ability in situations to get at the quarterback. I'm going Jalen Walker. I think you're with me on that one.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's Jalen Walker. He fits the need of replacing Greenlaw. He also can pass rush in some situations. So he's kind of like a versatile player that you need on defense. Because look, offensively, Shanahan's going to find some player. They're going to work well in his scheme. Like you don't have to worry about the offense too much for the 49ers, in my opinion. Like Shanahan will figure that out. Like he'll figure it out. Defensively, you lost a lot of really crucial players.
Yeah.
You need to find people that, like, and Fred Warner, as great as all pro Fred is, he gets banged up a little bit from time to time. You need someone that, like a Jalen Walker, who's a smart, intuitive player, learn under a guy like Fred Warner, and he'll just become better. So, yeah, no, Jalen Walker goes here. I think he's a 49er at the end of the day.
And the Cowboys are at an intriguing position because the Cowboys, that Dak Prescott contract, and you extend him, and yeah, there's a renegotiation, like there's a restructuring that happens, but that's a lot of money. And CeeDee Lamb, that's a lot of money. You lose DeMarcus Lawrence. Micah Parsons, I think did they? Was it a
I thought they did extend him or something. They did something crazy.
No, they didn't. But you're going to have to deal with that Micah Parsons contract sooner rather than later. This is a team that really needs to win, and they need to win now. I have heard a lot of interesting chatter about the Cowboys in what some people may consider a reach, but I have heard, because of this individual's Texas connections, that the Cowboys would be highly interested in getting Egbuka. I don't know if that makes 100% sense here at 12, but Jerry Jones does things that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no.
I think
Egbuka.
I think
Egbuka, he's been having this weird, like, late night surge. Like, we always hear it late for certain players.
Yeah.
Originally, my pick for this would have been Tet McMillan. You pair CeeDee Lamb with a guy like Tet McMillan. But I've been hearing a lot about Egbuka. These last, like Egbuka and Travion Henderson have been two players that have been just skyrocketing off people's draft boards. So I'm with you. I think they go with Egbuka, the wide receiver from Ohio State.
My only question for you here is, if you are the Cowboys right now, you have as your running backs Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, and Deuce Vaughn and Malik Davis. Is this a situation where they go, we're gonna go Henderson?
I mean, they could go Henderson in this situation. It could be interesting to go with Travion Henderson as well, but Dak is your franchise player, and you don't really have any good. You don't have a legit number two next
Yeah.
to CD Lamb, and you need that. I find that more of a need than like a running back like Travion Henderson, who I think fits more of like a team that has a starting running back, but they're not completely in love with them. So yeah, that's the way I look at it.
And now, if I'm Miami, I'm super happy.
Yeah.
Because I have so many options here. I need kind of everything, a little bit of everything, particularly defense. But another thing I do need is offense, which sounds wild because of how high powered the Miami offense is. But between Waddle picking up injuries here and there, Tyreek Hill, one, not being happy, and two, more domestic violence.
Yeah, he may not play this year. He may not play. Like if you have Tyreek Hill in a dynasty, just
Yeah.
try to find an idiot that doesn't pay attention to offseason football. Make a trade real quick.
How much can you really rely on just Devin Achan? Well, okay, you can run the ball a lot and you can catch in space, like behind the line of scrimmage, maybe a little bit in front. But would be really good? Somebody who can do that intermediate reception game. Oh, but we do have Jono Smith. However, Jono Smith is getting up there in age.
Yeah.
And it's an easy out on his contract that they signed. To me, most people I think in this situation will be saying Ted McMillan. I think Tyler Warren.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think it's between Tyler Warren or Matthew Golden, actually, because Golden's fast. And that's what the Dolphins like in the receivers is being really, really fast.
Right.
But I think Warren, just being the athlete that he is, the pass catcher that he is, and especially because they ran a lot of tight end screens last year, too, a lot of them. I think that Tyler Warren makes sense as a pick here for Miami. Get a guy like him on the inside. You can find another fast wide receiver later in the draft. You have a bunch of running backs as it is. So, yeah, Tyler Warren makes sense to me.
Have we seen in the number of mock drafts? I don't know how many you've looked over, but I've looked over a lot. And I see either Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland going to the Colts. And we just gave Tyler Warren to the Dolphins. So I think it's going to be Colston Loveland now with him off the board.
I think the Colts would have taken either or. I think they're taking Loveland. They need a tight end. They don't have like a reliable tight end. They need one really bad. Mo Ali Cox has been there for ages, it feels like, and just hasn't broken out and stuff. And people might be shocked that Ted McMillan is falling so far in this draft, but I'm telling y'all, like, there's going to be teams that are just looking at it and they're saying to themselves, like, we don't really need Ted McMillan this bad.
Very situational. Yeah. And now, speaking of situational, we have the Atlanta Falcons. And, maybe the jury is finally back in on whether or not the Falcons made a good decision drafting Michael Penix Jr. with how much we saw Kirk Cousins just deteriorate down the stretch. Opened the season pretty well, but then eventually it was I think 9 interceptions to 1 touchdown over 4 or 5 games or something like that. And they put in Penix, and Penix was able to move this offense. You've got enough on offense.
Yeah,
I think between Drake London, Ray McLeod, Kaderil Hodge, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, that's 6 people. I think you're good there. You did lose Drew Dahlman to the Bears. So there is an argument to be made for trying to find somebody on the offensive line. But there are a number of players in positions that we can see on this screen, and Falcons need literally anybody and everybody at all of them. Because one of the reasons why they were having such a problem was their defense. They could not, for the life of them, generate pass rush. And here, I can see an argument for either one of Jahdae Barron or Malachi Starks if we're looking at secondary. But to me, it's a question of Mike Green or Mykel Williams.
Yeah.
I would go, if I'm the Falcons, I think they're going to go Mykel Williams. How would you go? How would you play this?
Yeah, I think they're going to keep Mykel Williams in Georgia. I think they're going to also take him. I like Mike Green better as a prospect. But just the familiarity there. You know, your scouts went to a lot of Georgia games to look at these Georgia studs. Having a guy like Mikael Williams falling there as a true edge rusher, that's something that you didn't think you would see. So yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely like that pick.
Now we're in the back half of the draft. We have a bunch of people who are kind of tumbling down the boards. We have Ted McMillan falling. We have Shador Sanders falling. Matthew Golden, not as much, but I think there's going to be a team coming up soon that has the ability to do some things with Matthew Golden if Chase will allow me to let that person go to that team. And I think that's a hint of where who I'm thinking would go would pick him up. But before we can get to that pick, we have to talk about the Arizona Cardinals. And the Cardinals are a team that had great flashes. They had great flashes, but they could not get the ball into the hands of the star playmaker, at least the person on paper who was supposed to be the star playmaker in Marvin Harrison Jr. They did great jobs getting the ball to Trey McBride, but Trey McBride could not get into the end zone to save his life.
Yeah.
And you've got a situation where you don't know exactly how many years left you have with what's his name, with James Conner. You're trying to find the replacement. They what's his gosh, why am I forgetting his name? The guy they drafted, the running back that they drafted last year, Trey Benson. That's it. So that like you're trying to find who's going to be the next man up, the replacement for James Conner when he finally and deservedly so hangs up the cleats. But if you are Arizona, you are looking at situations where you are going to be in firefights with the LA Rams, the Niners, and the Seahawks. And similar to the Falcons, one of the things that was a drawback was your defense, because you had to force a lot of time on your offense to try to score, and then you were watching teams being able to move the ball against your team when you were on defense. I would try to go with someone who is going to be able to really speed up the clock on the opposing quarterback. Is this where Mike Green goes? However, I can also see a situation where they go defensive tackle and take Derek Harmon. I think Mike Green, but what do you think?
I actually think they might address the secondary with Jadad Barron here, because they kind of need someone in that secondary. Defensively, like linebacker, front seven wise, I think the Cardinals have a good group of young guys that they kind of already like, and they could definitely add to it, but they just need that one guy that kind of can replace what Pat Pete brought for so many years for them. They just don't have that guy. They just keep signing guys to 2-year contracts, and they end up not working out for them. So like, besides Buda Baker, he needs like someone that he can also trust communicating. So I actually think a cornerback is that play for them here, and I think Jadad Barron is definitely a guy that could go at this pick right here.
That's fair. And looking at who they signed during the free agency, they re-signed Baron Browning, who's a good pass rusher. I know,
Yeah,
from his time in
solid.
Denver, and they signed Josh Sweat. So actually, they may not need that edge presence. They may have gotten it with Josh Sweat, but there's nothing wrong with having more cornerback help. We're gonna go with who you take with Jahdae Barron.
Yeah.
And this takes us to the Cincinnati Bengals. Oh, man. The Cincinnati Bengals, a team that, if there was ever a team held back by their defense,
Yeah.
it was the Cincinnati Bengals. It is thoroughbred horses on the offense and just absolute dog shit terribleness on the defense. And I apologize to any Bengals player who is on that defense, but man, you guys are not being given a fair shake. And maybe that's a scheme issue, maybe that's a play calling issue, but it could also be a personnel issue. And here they need pass rush, and I had Mike Green going to the Cardinals, but I can see a situation now if the Cardinals take a cornerback that we go either edge or defensive tackle for the Bengals. But Trey Hendrickson, they gave him permission to seek a trade. And if you're going to lose your premier edge rusher, you might as well get another one here in the draft. Mike Green, how do you feel about this one?
Yeah, I think it's either Mike Green or Tyler Booker from Alabama, the offensive guard. Those are the only two options. Yeah, those are the two options that I think they will go with, but I definitely think it's Mike Green in this situation. Like, in a perfect world, they keep Trey Hendrickson, and then I make a case for Malachi Starks going here because I think most of the Bengals' issues weren't really like pass rush wise. It was the secondary would just let up these big plays when they didn't need to, and you need that guy that's like a leader back there to communicate stuff to the cornerbacks of the defense, and Malachi Starks would have been that guy for them, but Trey Hendrickson, it felt like there was a light at the end of the tunnel that, oh, Hendrickson's going to stay with the Bengals.
Yeah.
And things fell apart. And now it's like, okay, well, now he's not going to stay. So I
Yeah,
think it's
it
Mike
is what
Green
it
in this
is. Yeah.
situation.
So let's now turn to the Seahawks, and I think the reason why I didn't mention Tyler Booker is because I think Booker goes to the Seahawks.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the Seahawks, they run their asses up to the card. If Tyler Booker's still there. They're like, oh, wait, the best guard is still available? Yeah. We're taking him. Like, no problem. They're going to take Tyler Booker. Yes.
So now the Buccaneers have their choice of a lot of players, but I think it's going to revolve around these two right here, Malachi Starks or Amanawari. And I don't know as much about the Amanawari, so it could be dealer's choice, but I think it's going to be one of these two safeties. How would you play this?
I feel like Malachi Starks, I'm more familiar with him during, also Amon Ori because he played South Carolina, but most of those Bama Georgia games, I'm so used to seeing Malachi Starks just give Bama receivers fits. But I think that Amon Ori may fit better with what Todd Bowles wants to do on defense, especially with his aggressive defense. So I'm going with Nick Alamornori here than Malachi Starks. I think Malachi Starks is a better player, but scheme fit wise, I think Amanawari will fit better, especially when it comes to the man-to-man type of defense that he'll be forced to play. Starks, he was like when Georgia would do their whole blitzing thing, Starks was a blitzer. He wasn't one of the guys that was doing man-to-man defense. And in Todd Bowles' scheme, if you're a safety, you got to play man-to-man defense.
Yeah. So that leads us to the future AFC West champions, the future AFC champions, and the future Super Bowl winners, the Denver Broncos, within the next 3, maybe 4 years. But for right now, they got to figure out how they're going to get there. And it's interesting because we have heard so much about teams trying to move down. There are very few teams we have heard trying to move up. And Denver is one of those teams. Now, on the one hand, that as a Broncos fan, that is really fun because you don't really hear about that happening in the past few years with Denver.
Yeah.
At the same time, it scares the shit out of me because, one, I don't need Sean Payton being overconfident, and also I don't really want to know what are the trade packages that they're talking about, because I am somebody who firmly believes in building through the draft. If you need to get somebody for free agency and it's a good price point, then you go and do it. But you don't want to be signing people through free agency. And that's something that can happen if you're trying to move up. Because as we were just finding out when we were proposing the trade and trying to get the Steelers from 21 up to 9, you can only imagine what you'd have to pay to be able to move up. So I don't know if I really want Denver to move up. I am happy that they feel confident that they could move up and it wouldn't hurt the team's long-term success. But here, I think we see the second running back taken, and I think it's Amari and Hampton.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think it's Amari and Hampton. They need like a legit running back. Hampton's the second best back in this draft class, so got to go with Amari and Hampton here.
It's gonna piss me off in the dynasty league that you and I are in, where you took over from Nick's team, because as I have the first overall pick due to a trade, not because my team is terrible. And obviously I'm going to take Ashton Genty, but if Denver goes Amari and Hampton, there's a part of me that's going to be like, yeah, but would my team be more fun for me to watch?
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's in that situation. It's pretty tough. Pretty tough.
But here now we have the Steelers at 21, and hey, the trade didn't go through, but look look how God works in
Yeah.
mysterious ways.
Just give them. We were going to trade them up to get them Shador anyway, so just give them Shador. Like, I truly believe that's the team that he's going to go to. Shador Sanders is going to be black and gold. Like, maybe in the trade to get to the spot, maybe they do trade George Pickens to get to number 9 in real life. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's probably something that is more realistic. So,
all right, well, sir, I'm gonna let you take this one. Chargers. Who do we got?
I think we go Travion Henderson, running back out of Ohio State.
I like that.
Yeah, I think the thing is that we just need another guy that team. It's a team that Harbaugh's familiar with. It's culture that it's just culture. It's just like a cultural fit. Like a Ted McMillan, Matthew Golden. Like Ted McMillan just seems redundant to what Mike Williams already brings to the table. Matthew Golden, although yes, a fun speedster, hands are a concern with him. So to me, it's just one of those where it's like, go with the guy. Like you already know you have the quarterback. You know what your team identity is. You have a running back in Najee Harris that is hit or miss, but is more of your thumper. Get a guy that's the burner, the speedster, the Travion Henderson that can, burst into the seam. So I think that's the pick that they're going to choose. They're going to choose Travion Henderson. Just say, you know what? Let's just get who we think is one of the better players available, because I think Travion Henderson is massively underrated on this big board, but also character-wise, character fit. He fits the mold. Good, exciting young running back. And you got to look at it this way. If Denver's taking Hampton early in the first round, what's stopping a team from trading back up in the first to take on Henderson? And then you're left with running backs like, like sure, Scatterboo's cool, but he seems he seems like a redundant Najee Harris that can catch the football. Scatterboo just seems like someone that is just like Najee Harris, but he has better receiving ability than Najee Harris. So I think Henderson makes the best sense. He's fast, he can catch the football, does a little bit of everything, good change of pace, and he's on a rookie contract. I think that Henderson, and he fits the timeline of what the Chargers are at, where the Chargers were a surprise playoff team. They weren't supposed to really make the playoffs this year. The fact they made it is great. Go ahead, get a guy and Henderson.
You can make an argument as good as J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards were, or are, I should say. Having a better running back would have made a bit of a difference in the Texans game.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, and now you have two better running backs.
It's the little bits that count.
Yeah,
but now we have the Green Bay Packers, and the Packers. I don't want to say that last season was a lost season, but it just felt weird for the Packers. You bring in Josh Jacobs, everything's looking gangbusters, and then Jordan Love gets hurt. And sure, what's that dude's name? Malik Willis wins some games, but it didn't feel as though even when Jordan Love got back that they were a team that was cohesively built. And, the old saying of Bill Belichick that you don't really know what team you have until October, November, towards the end of October, November, really played out for the Packers in real time because they missed that time of having Jordan Love behind center in the Septembers and the beginning of Octobers. They are also a team that does not have a true number one wide receiver. They have Jaden Reed, but Christian Watson is so hit or miss that it's ridiculous. There are games where he's going to just go off, and there's games where he's just going to disappear, and then he's going to have a hamstring injury, and you don't really know what you have in that sense. They need a bona fide number one wide receiver. At the same time, they are in a division with the Vikings and the Lions and the Bears. Oh my. There's a lot going on there that your defense has to be able to stand up to. I think I would go. I think I would, if it was me, I think I would probably want to go either Jihad Campbell or I would I think maybe even Walter Nolan. But I can see a situation where Ted McMillan, if he's here at this point, they go the 50-50 guy, Jaden Reed, we can move him around the whole field. We have
Yeah.
draft. We can, we can make this Josh Jacob. We can make this work if we get that bona fide stud wide receiver. So I'm good. I'm still gonna go Jihad Campbell because I think they have enough issues on defense that with who's available, I just don't personally know enough about Derek Harmon to be able to convincingly slot him in here. But how would you go with this?
Yeah, it's tough for the Packers because if Ted McMillan doesn't go here, I know who the Vikings are choosing at with their pick 24. Like they're going to be happy jumping for joy getting a guy like that.
Wait, hold on. You're telling me Kevin O'Connell with JJ McCarthy, who is it's not Laporta, it's Hawkinson. Aaron Jones back, and now you've got Jefferson, Addison, and McMillan. Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's the greatest team to exit the first round of the playoffs ever.
Yeah, you have JJ getting a good 50-50 ball guy. I think because Edgerrin Cooper had a really good season as a rookie for the Packers. I do think that Jihad Campbell would be a good running mate for him for years to come, because that's the thing, though. Like their defensive line has taken a step back. So a guy like Derek Harmon or Walter Nolan could also add some value to that defensive line. And it's tough, man. It's very tough for the Packers. They're in a weird situation. I think Jihad Campbell's the pick.
This is why so many of the teams above are happy with trading down.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much talent in the back part of this first round. And as we get into the second round and third round, that it's far easier to just trade out, let somebody else worry about this higher pick, and we'll be happy with whoever falls to us.
Yeah, I think it's Jihad Campbell. I think that would be the pick right here. Get another young linebacker in that room, pair him up with Edgerrin Cooper. You have two really good studs right there. So yeah.
See, here's where I'm really intrigued by this idea that you have of Ted McMillan to the Vikings, only because I think of how much the Vikings need defensive pieces. And
they signed all their defensive pieces in the free agency. Yeah,
but it's just something about it. Just
they might trade Addison. I think they might trade Addison.
Oh no, not my boy.
Your boy's gonna get traded. He's like my boy from the Eagles. What's his name? He was on the Commanders and stuff. Jahan Dotson. He's like Jahan Dotson. He's gonna get traded. Look. Having a guy like Jefferson's great, but JJ McCarthy loves his tall wide receivers. And I think Ted McMillan is like the best bet if you want a very, very good JJ McCarthy. Okay. Having Jefferson and Ted, yeah.
All right. If you're the Texans, is there any choice here but offensive line?
Oh yeah, no, they have to choose someone on the offensive line here. They need more guard help than tackle help. So
because they got Tunsil.
Yeah. So no, they traded Tunsil. Remember?
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. But their guards are all ass.
Let's just take a look at who.
Their guards are terrible. They have 2K Greens that stink.
All right. So here's who they brought in. Here's how this worked. They signed Trent Brown. They signed Cam Robinson. They got Ed Ingram from the Vikings for a 6th-round pick, and they got signed Laken Tomlinson. So they didn't really do much.
Yeah. So they still need a guard. Cam Robinson's serviceable as a left tackle. He played well in the absence of the Vikings left tackle that got injured last year and stuff. So I think, God dang, there's no guard. Scroll down. I don't like Gary Gabriel. Scroll down. Go to guard OG. Honestly, it's between Donovan Jackson or Gray Zabel. I've heard a lot about Gray Zabel, but I like Donovan Jackson more. But I think because Gray Zabel is like more of a guarantee as a 1st-round pick, they'll go with Gray Zabel. Because they don't need any of these offensive tackles.
Yeah,
none of these guys can play guard.
Okay.
Yeah, like Simmons is more of a tackle. Yeah, so Gray Zabel for North Dakota.
if you're the Rams and you just got Jared Verse and your defense kind of was turning things around and getting kind of nasty, do you not just take Matthew Golden now that you
I
don't have
mean,
Cooper Cup?
you could take
You go and
Matthew.
you go. Let's see what Matthew Golden and Puka Nacua do together.
You know, the Rams, they can kind of do whatever in this situation.
Yeah.
I honestly think, though, I think offensive tackle would be something they could actually look at too, the Rams in this situation. Like, I know they have a couple, but they got injured last year. They were missing a couple games for them, and they're a lot older. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, no, the Rams are in an interesting situation here. Yeah, maybe no, I think because Golden McVay doesn't like the super speedy dudes. He likes more like consistent route runners.
Yeah, but I mean, Puka Nacua and Cooper Cup are both speedsters. They're
No,
route
they're
runners for sure. But
they're
the thing
good
is,
route runners
I
that
guess
are
I guess what
speedsters.
I'm saying is, if in the case of Matthew Golden, you already know he has the speed. The question is just, can I teach this guy how to run routes better? It's harder to
No,
say this guy runs routes really well, but he's not that fast.
yeah, I don't think it's Golden. I
Okay.
think you know what? Pair up Nick Scorton with Jared Verse. That'll be a nasty edge
Ooh,
duel for many years to
okay.
come. Corton, I like a lot. He was a guy earlier in the draft process that was a top 10 pick. Kind of fell off a little bit as more guys went up, but
Yeah.
I think consistency wise, he's pretty good. And he's also a good run stopper, too. He's not just a pure getting after the quarterback. If McVay was a real sicko, like I know he is, he would take James Pierce here. But we chose Gordon.
So now we are in the last 6 teams. We have 1, 2, 3 NFC teams and 1, 2, 3 AFC teams. And these are all teams that, for the most part, with the exception of like maybe 2 teams, can afford to pick almost anything at any
Yeah.
position and be fine. So these are more just like sort of just luxury picks. Like who
Yeah.
would you, especially in this draft this year, where we are so stacked with talent as we get further down, those not diamonds in the rough, but like more just guys that need a little bit of polish and they're gonna be good. So I don't really know who I would take if I'm the Ravens. If you sort of don't really need kind of much of anything, but you just need Lamar Jackson to be able to put together like a good playoff game. Like that's
Yeah.
really what you need. And it could be a situation where Mark Andrews is not long for this world, but you have Isaiah Likely and you've got Derrick Henry. Like you have like you can make an argument that the Ravens could afford to do a luxury pick of a wide receiver, not a Matthew Golden, but somebody who is going to fit a little bit better on that offensive style. But it's kind of a dealer's choice. Who would you take if you are the Ravens?
I think this is where Malachi Starks go, just because of the Bama ties with not the Bama, the Georgia ties and the SEC ties, just with the Ravens in general. You pair him up with Kyle Hamilton, you have a great back end for like years to come. And then not only that, Starks, he kind of fits the blitzing safety role. So I think they'll just double up, have 2 good safeties.
That's fair. That's fair. And that is already a really good secondary. It's a really good secondary already. So now we have the Lions, and the Lions were just, I really don't know what happened. I think we still don't fully know what happened in that in that playoff game against the Commanders. It's really crazy because that was the game that you and I during the preview said exactly what the Lions should not do, and then they did exactly what we said not to do. In real time, you and I are talking to each other, going, "What is going on?" But
yeah, we called it.
Yeah. It is a new world. It is a new day for the Detroit Lions. They no longer have the offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. They no longer have the defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn. It seems to be that Aaron Glenn left on very good terms, but Ben Johnson did not leave on very good terms. Arguably left on bad terms. because of how he managed his exit. At the same time, there is an argument, or at least the players are making an argument, that it really was not Ben Johnson that was as responsible for the Lions' success as many people believe. And we will see whether that is true, one, when it comes to how the Bears do this season, but also how the Lions do this season. There's been conversation now that the Lions would trade Jameson Williams. He recently unfollowed all of the Lions stuff on social, on Instagram and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Which, wide receivers do all the time, cornerbacks do all the time. I don't know if that necessarily is something that gives a good example of, what's going to happen there. But the question is going to be, if they do look to trade him, and maybe that is something that we could see happen where they move up and they're like, part of the package deal is you get J-Mo.
J-Mo, yeah.
What do they decide to do? Because it is such a balanced offense.
Yes.
It is arguably the most balanced offense in the entire league, because at any given point in time, you can go fast, you can go slow, you can move the ball around the field. Like, you can say, we want to be shifting to the right because for whatever reason, because we want to set up a crosser to the left for an end zone play. You can do anything you want between Amon-Ra, between Hawkinson, and between Sonic and Knuckles. Defense, though, we did see their defense take some steps back, and they did just extend Kirby Joseph, making him the highest paid safety in the NFL. But I could see a world where they go, we gotta figure out this defense, and maybe that's a situation that they don't need to do as much, or they, the feeling that's inside is kind of a false positive, because you didn't have Aiden Hutchinson during most of the back half of the season. Now,
yeah,
the question is going to be, when Aiden Hutchinson gets back, is he Aiden Hutchinson? Because yes, he has had a relatively freakish return from recovery, but it's one thing to be able to move around, to run, to lift weights, and those kinds of things. It's something else entirely when you have pads on and there's another human being hitting you full force in the form of offensive tackles. So I think that they go defense, and I think that they are going. So here's the thing. I don't know as much about James Pierce Jr. I don't know that much about Donovan. I should not try to pronounce that last name. Ziruwaku. We'll go with that. But is there somebody that you think of for their defense or offense? I mean, I don't think they need offense, but if you feel free if you disagree. But part of it also why it could be offense is if Jameson Williams isn't there. But how would you play the Detroit Lions?
Yeah, so go to defense, look on edge. I want to see where they rank this one guy. Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense. I know he's ranked 55, but JT Tuimalau, I like a lot from Ohio State. I think he could be someone that's potential. But if we click on DT, I think there's one guy that will definitely be on the Detroit Lions. He's staying home in Michigan, Kenneth Grant. I think Kenneth Grant would be the guy. Yeah.
Just change the name from Detroit Lions to the Michigan Lions.
Yeah, like I think Kenneth Grant, like, as much as adding another edge rusher would be great, what hurt the Lions the most was that when they lost all their interior guys late in the year, like they lost the Onzarikis of the world, they lost those guys, and they found like other guys to step up at that edge position. You need more depth at that defensive tackle, and Grant, I really like a lot. I think it's between him or JT Olorumolu. I think those two could definitely be potential people that the Detroit Lions would choose in this situation.
Yeah. Okay. I'm with you. So let's see. Now we've got the Commanders, and the Commanders are one of the teams. When I was just doing the little preview of this final six, that I said, there is one or two teams out there that they don't necessarily have a luxury pick. And the Commanders is that team, the primary team that I was thinking about, because they went on a Cinderella run by any estimation, by any and all metrics. They went on a bit of a Cinderella run. The question is whether it's going to be consistent, and part of that is going to be if you trust Jaden Daniels to be able to replicate the success of year one into year 2, 3, 4, and 5, and that's the hope. What do you do to support him? Well, they re-signed Noah Brown. They re-signed KJ Osborne. They
Yep.
signed Michael Gallup, which isn't that great of a thing. However, they get Deebo Samuel, and they re-signed Zach Ertz. So they have enough pieces on offense to say, okay, we really need to figure out this defense, because the defense was surprisingly good. And the reason why I'm saying surprisingly good is because the defense on paper is terrible.
Yeah.
So how do you fix that? I'm going again with one of those edge rushers. I think that if they can generate more pressure, particularly because you're going up against a New York Giants team that does not have the best offensive line. You're going up against the Cowboys, who are rebuilding an offensive line, and you're going up against the Eagles, who have one of the best, if not the best, offensive line in the entire league. So you got to generate that pressure, because you cannot be in situations where it's 4th and 1, 4th and 2, even 4th and 3. The Eagles are going to at least tease the tush push at 4th and 3 to try to get you to go off sides. And then they've got that first down. So I'm going with edge, but here's kind of a dealer's choice of edge. So who would you take in this situation from the defensive side? I mean, if you think offense, go offense, but
I think it's defense for sure, because I think offensively they're fine. Like, they don't really need to add too much to the offensive side of the ball in the first round. But I think it's Donovan and Rakuku, just because he's kind of like a Swiss Army knife type of defensive edge. Like, and Dan Campbell will like that, a guy that can play a little bit of everywhere for him. So
yeah.
like that's why I think it'll be him. As a Swiss Army knife, kind of like Bobby Irvin for the Seahawks. Think of that. So
yeah, okay. And the
not
other
Bobby.
team,
Well, Bruce Irvin. I was combining Bobby Wagner with Bruce Irvin. Yeah.
You said it, and I was like, yeah, I know who he's talking about.
Yeah, no, I don't know why I forgot his name was Bruce Irvin, but yeah, he feels like a Dan Campbell type of guy.
So the other team, because I said one or two don't really have luxury picks. The other team that I was thinking of was the Buffalo Bills, because the Buffalo Bills keep knocking on the door and knocking on the door and knocking on the door, and nobody seems to want to be able to open the door for them.
Yeah.
And Josh Allen is trying his damnedest, putting the team on his back so many times that, they just did the contract extension with him, even after doing it not too long ago. And I'm like, you know what? He deserves the money, because he literally is the offense. Like, it is him. It is him, and then it's like 95% or 90% Josh Allen, and then 5 to 10% James Cook. That's the Buffalo Bills offense. We saw Dalton Kincaid really take a step back from a production standpoint, to the point that they almost were pretty much starting Dawson Knox over him. They tried to do at the trade deadline, bring in Amari Cooper. It didn't work out as well as they had anticipated. You have Khalil Shakir taking that step forward. You don't know 100% what's going to happen with Keon Coleman and his development, but you do know that the Bills' defense, if they can just stop people, Josh can find a way to at least get the team into field goal range. So it's interesting how with a lot of these teams, as we're going through it, this back half is defense. It's heavy defense. We had a lot of offensive firepower earlier in the draft, and now we're seeing a lot of defense. I think Walter Nolan makes a lot of sense here.
I think the thing with Derek Hartman is he's kind of redundant to what Ed Oliver already is, while Walter Nolan is like the perfect complement to what Ed Oliver is. Like, he'll complement what because you paid Ed Oliver not too long ago. You got to now pair him up with someone like a Walter Nolan. So I think Walter Nolan makes a lot of sense here too from Ole Miss.
It's interesting because I said earlier that I don't know that much about Derek Harmon, but one of the things I did see was a comp from him to Ed Oliver. So the
Yeah.
fact that you're supporting what I saw.
Yeah,
I
no,
do appreciate it.
it's just too redundant. Like,
Right.
Ed Oliver, we know he can get after the quarterback sometimes. He's solid against the run, and he's strong for his size, but he's not, how do I say, he's not someone where, like, you don't want two of them on this field. Want a guy like Walter Nolan who's just going to stuff the run when you need it. And that's what cost, the Bills sometimes, was that they couldn't stuff the run when they needed to stuff the run, like you need someone like that. And Walter Nolan, they like to rotate their defense around. You saw Rousseau have, a really good season too. So it's like, go ahead, take a guy like Walter Nolan.
And then you have these assholes.
Yeah. just,
Another situation where
just put Derek Hartman on their team. Like, somehow the rich keep getting richer. They just somehow lucked into Derek Hartman. Like, we stupidly gave the Chiefs Derek Hartman. Like,
all right, and now because it's the Eagles, who is the highest rated Georgia defensive player?
yeah, you find the best.
I'm kidding. But
You know
quite
what's
honestly,
funny here? I think this is where James Pierce goes, because I don't think the Eagles care about the attitude concerns. They're just gonna be like, cool,
go
yeah,
get him.
cool. Another talented player falls to us. Who gives a fuck? Like, that's literally what I think the Eagles are thinking here. They're just like, LOL. You guys gave us this beast at
Yeah.
defensive end, a top 5 pick potentially. Like, look at Jalen Carter. They just sat there, twiddled their thumbs, and they said, "Oh, Jalen Carter fell to us. Sure, we'll take him."
Yeah.
They, you know, there are certain teams that are just kind of like know what they're doing, and if the Eagles took James Pierce, I would be like, yeah, that makes sense. They would just sit here and take James Pierce, and there would be the one team where I feel like he would go in and find his footing. Like, they would fix whatever his attitude issue. Hey, look, I hear an edge rusher with attitude issues. That sounds like a Hall of Famer to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sounds like a normal edge rusher to me.
Yeah, so here you have it, guys. We've got our first round of the NFL draft, and tomorrow I think is going to be super interesting with the actual NFL draft. But who are some people that now that we've done this first round, who are the people that are falling out into that second round that really stand out to you? Because we didn't put Matthew Golden on a team, for example. There's still some
people
out there too.
are enamored by Golden's speed, but I can see him falling out of the first round in real life, to be honest. Like, it would take, honestly, it starts with the Saints at 9. If the Saints decide to take a wide receiver early, then that's when to run a wide receivers. But we didn't have the Saints take a wide receiver early. We had them take Will Campbell. So, like, that's where our draft is. It's like, and plus we couldn't even trade the Saints because this whole draft board would look different. This stupid little machine would let us trade the Saints to number 20, because then it would look totally different in that aspect, because who knows what would have changed and stuff. But yeah, like, I feel this draft board is just that is something that's very doable. I'm telling you, don't be surprised if Emeka Egbuka is the first receiver taken off the board. Like, don't be surprised.
Hearing from the Cowboys. So you know what? Let's compare our picks to the current Tankathon picks. Okay. So 1, same thing, Cam Ward.
Okay.
2 and 3, the Tankathon has it swapped. They have the Browns taking Travis Hunter and the Giants taking Abdul Carter. So not too off from what we have. Now at 4, they had the Patriots keeping the pick and going with Will Campbell.
Okay.
At 5, they had the Jags taking Ashton Johnson. At 6, they had the Raiders taking Membu. At 7, they've got the Jets going with Tyler Warren. With 8, they have the Panthers taking Jalen Walker. We went with Shamar Stewart. So that's kind of a bit of a difference from a positional standpoint. I know we have the Jets taking O-line, and Tankathon has it taking the tight end. Then they have Mason Graham going 9th to the Saints. Kelvin Banks Jr. going 10th to the Bears. Michael Williams going to San Fran. They have the Cowboys taking Tet McMillan at 12.
Mm,
Will Johnson going to the Dolphins at 13.
that makes sense.
Colson Loveland to the Colts at 14. So we're
A line
lockstep
there.
there. Yeah. Mike Green, edge to Falcons at 15. They have the Cardinals taking Shamar Stewart at 16. Jade Barron going to the Bengals. Matthew Golden going to the Seahawks. The Buccaneers taking Jahad Campbell. The Broncos taking Amari Hampton. The Steelers getting Shador Sanders. So we were there as well.
Yeah.
Now, here's something that's interesting. We'll see how you feel about this one. The Chargers Tankathon believes Walter Nolan.
That'd be cool. I mean, he's a good player. I wouldn't be against it. Like that's a good pickup right there. We haven't had a true defensive tackle in a long ass time, man. Like since Luis Castillo. Like it's been like, and that was not he wasn't even like.
Years.
I mean, if I'm gonna say a name that is a true Charger legend, Jamal Williams, since Jamal Williams days, like so he would be a breath of fresh air because we keep signing guys like that are just like stopgap defensive tackle guys, like just placeholders for years to come. So I'd be cool with Walter Nolan. Like I think he's a stud, so I wouldn't be against it.
We've got the Packers taking Derek Harmon. The Vikings going Malachi Starks. We've got the Texans going Josh Simmons, tackle from Ohio State.
Okay.
They've got the Rams taking Gray Zabel. They've got Kenneth Grant going to the Ravens at 27. They've got Tyler Booker going to the Lions at 28.
If Tyler Booker goes to 28, that's like the most insane thing I've ever seen in my life.
Why?
No, because he's good. He shouldn't go 28. Yeah, that would be insane. Like, and then the Lions, they'll just run 6 offensive line sets, like crazy.
They've got Azurawaku, the edge rusher, going to the Commanders, which we did as well.
Yeah, because he's like Bruce Irvin. He's just like Bruce Irvin. Like we're Swiss Army knife and kind of do everything. I forgot what school Bruce Irvin went to, but I feel like it's also a school that like has a good name to it, but it wasn't like the best school and stuff. So yeah, that makes sense.
Hold on, let me see.
I don't even remember what school he went to, Bruce Irvin, to be honest.
He went to. Oh wow. Okay. So Mount San Antonio for 1 year, and then West Virginia.
Okay, so yeah. 1
year.
I think that's the same school, Mount San Antonio. That's where Cam Ward went at one point. I think that's the school he went to as well. I want to say it sounds familiar.
So then they have Amanawari going to the Bills at 30. They have the Chiefs taking Josh Connerly, offensive tackle, Oregon. And then, just like we did, they have the Eagles taking James Pierce Jr.
Yeah, come on, like James Pierce to the Eagles. That's just great. Like the Chiefs or the Eagles are the two teams that will just be like, "What idiots! You guys are just gonna like hate his interviews. We'll take him. Like, who gives a fuck?"
Yeah. This is why I like the Tankathon. I get that it's a I don't know exactly how all of the Tankathon is done, like how they're picking each person, if it's some kind of aggregate of all these different experts or if it's votes or anything like that. But like this is why sometimes Tankathon just is weird to me, because for the Browns, they had at number 2 taking Travis Hunter, right? But then at the top of the second round, because the Browns pick first, they have the Browns taking Igbuka. Which, I get it if you're going to really use Travis Hunter as a hybrid DB wide receiver, but like, do you need 2 wide receivers?
No, you don't.
Like that feels a little weird to me. But if, let's say for a moment, that the Cowboys go Tet McMillan and Matthew Golden gets selected somewhere along the way, then Igbuka is great for the Browns if you took Abdul Carter.
Yeah, but then you got a premier pass rusher and you got a really good wide receiver out of it.
But let's see as it pertains to us. Let's see what they have us doing. So they have the Broncos taking Azare Thomas, cornerback, Florida State, with pick 51. And because you went Trayvon Henderson in here they went, what was it? Walter Nolan. So here in the second round, they have the Chargers going with Quinshon Judkins.
I love Judkins. Don't get me wrong. It's just he feels redundant to Najee Harris. Like the only thing that he has over Najee Harris is that he has a spin move that's deadly. But other than that, it's like I'd much rather have Travion Henderson, who's more of a complete back that will complement Harris well. And I'm cool with the reach for Travion Henderson at this point because Henderson, yeah, like I know that the Chargers they've been talking to a lot of tight ends and they like the Miami tight end Elijah Arroyo, or I think his name is. Like I don't know where he goes in the second round, but I think he's a guy that we'll target in the second round or a defensive tackle in the second round.
And then in the third round, they have Denver taking Jalen Royals with pick 85. They have the Chargers taking Harold Fannin Jr., tight end Bowling Green, 86, which
that's the run blocker.
I'm already not agreeing with Tankathon because they don't have Tez Johnson going until pick 134 to the Eagles. And if by the third round Tez Johnson is there and Denver wants to take a wide receiver,
Bo Nix is
calling. Tez Johnson.
Bo Nix is calling Sean. Like there's no way Bo Nix is not going to want hit what is like his dude.
Tez Johnson is still available at that third round pick. You know they're going to have cameras in the draft room filming him picking up the phone and calling Tez Johnson.
Yeah, exactly.
This is going to work.
Yeah, dude, we're gonna get the social media video where Bo Nix is like crying, like we're together in the NFL, buddy.
Yeah.
We did it.
Come on.
Dude, if the Eagles get Tez Johnson, it's just like the Eagles are just like, let's just take all the problem children. We'll fix them. We know what we're doing. We're just a really good franchise.
And then fourth round, they've got Denver taking Barrett Carter, linebacker Clemson. Chargers taking Savion Jones, edge rusher LSU. And that's as far as it goes for Tankathon and the Chargers and the Broncos.
Yeah.
So yeah, we will. This has been a fun. Armand saying Tyler Lockett signs with the Titans 1 year, $4 million. That can get up to $6 million.
Oh well, Cam Ward has a midget to throw to. That's cool.
All right, that's a little.
Him and Calvin Ridley. That's a fun locker room. Cool.
Oh man. Yeah, geez. Well, with signing Tyler Lockett, does Will Levis get another year?
I think he does. You guys are sleeping on my dog. Dude, you're sleeping on him. He's going to win the quarterback battle.
Actually, let's assume for a moment that they're going to draft Cam Ward, all that kind of fun stuff. But let's also assume that they're going to trade Will Levis and not do a QB battle. Okay?
That'd be terrible.
Where do you want Levis to go?
Man, where do I want my boy to go where he can play?
Yeah. Well, okay.
Yeah.
So where?
The Saints. Can you imagine Will Levis in a Saints jersey? It's so perfect, bro. The black and gold. The Saints or the Jets.
Oh man, him in a battle with Justin Fields.
Yeah, dude. Why not? Or like let's make my dreams come true. Let's give Will Levis a legit shot. Like people keep shitting on this guy, but hey man, when he shows up, bro. Like I don't know what to say to it.
You say Levis to the Steelers.
No. Mike Tom will get so sick of him. Like that's why we got Shador Sanders to the Steelers. Yeah, I think the Saints would make a lot of sense. I mean,
could you imagine just for a second?
Could you imagine the bombs at Raheed Shaheed?
Okay, just hear me out though.
Come on.
Will Levis, QB of the future, learning from Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston.
Oh my God, dude. He would be the perfect quarterback. That would be the greatest thing ever, dude. Giants fans just have to wait 2 more years and then Will Levis, you get him with those 2 quarterbacks. Yeah, I like that a lot, actually. That'd be sick.
You would be doing the he's done miracles on me.
Yeah, dude. No, but give my boy a shot. Like, y'all got to stop sleeping on him, man. Like, yeah, stop sleeping on him. You give him a shot, man. Giants gave him too early. They gave him too early on my dog.
But guys, we want to thank you for tuning in to this week's
I need to sign.
episode.
I need to sign Levis jersey. That's on the board. When he gets straight to the Titans, I'm gonna go on pristine auction. I'm gonna go find a Levis jersey that's signed by him. They're gonna be dirt cheap, and I'm gonna buy it.
And you can, if you frame it, you can just put like a mayonnaise packet.
Yeah, dude. People are gonna be like, "Why you have a signed Will Levis jersey with a signed Raiders Antonio Brown jersey?" I'm gonna be like, "You guys just never know these legends when they were playing at the time."
But guys, we want to thank you for tuning in. The NFL draft is tomorrow. It's going to be a fun time. I'm still hammering out with Romeo whether or not we are going to be doing a watch along. I think the odds are good, but we shall see how that one goes. But as always, everyone, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate all of the support. We are trying to coordinate schedules and make sure we can be a little bit more frequent. But Chase is just a jet setter, man. He's in LA, then he's in Vegas for WrestleMania. He's all over the place. Right?
Yeah,
He's got things to do, people to see, Will Levis jerseys to buy.
exactly.
So, but speaking of, Chase, tell the people where they can find you.
You guys can follow me on X at ChaseOver68 and the Around the Point Network, where we do a lot of wrestling content. If you guys want to hear about Steve and I's WrestleMania trip, we did a stream with Romeo talking about all the misadventures.
All right. Well, and you guys can catch me here on True Elite Sports and Entertainment. If there is a draft night one watch along, I will definitely be on that one. But until next time, guys, remember, take care of yourselves and each other. We will catch all of you later. And, if you haven't already, go watch Draft Day.
Oh, that's
go watch.
I'm loading that up right now on Netflix. That's what I'm going to go to bed to. Greatest movie ever. Greatest movie ever.
I want Derek Putney because I goddamn feel
like it. Yeah, dude, straight for a punt returner. Like, what?
I want my first rounds back, all of them.
All of them. Gets them back somehow too, man. Like,
and low key, a very underrated performance from Chadwick Boseman. May he rest in peace. That was hilarious. When he's like, I'm taking my nieces and nephews tumbling. They like tumbling. I don't. So where are you gonna pick me? I was like, this guy's hilarious.
Yeah, draft day. I feel like even after the draft, we should just do a live reaction to draft day.
Hold on. Who's the guy who plays the who is the guy? It's not Tom Welling. It's who's the guy who plays the quarterback that they already had.
Oh, I forgot.
Shit. Because it is Tom Welling. I was like,
yeah.
Okay, so it's literally Superman, guys, as the quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. That's how you know that it's fictitious, because Superman and Deshaun Watson are on very two opposite ends of the moral compass spectrum.
Yeah, that's true.
That's how you know it's fiction. And then Arian Foster talking to Terry Crews as his dad. He's like, Pop, I just want to be a Brown like you. I'm like, this is hilarious.
Yeah, dude. Arian Foster's like a random running back in there.
Yeah. You pancake eating motherfucker. But guys, seriously, watch Draft Day if you have not. It's hilarious. So until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. We'll catch you all later.